My wife revealed, she's asexual, I want a divorce, but she won't let me. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I knew our marriage. I was wrong, and it hit me like a punch I didn't see coming. We'd been together for 7 years, married for 4. On the surface, it looked like any normal, happy couple. I'd joke that she was my better half, and she'd roll her eyes in that way that made me laugh every single time. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our weekend habits. Friends always said we were perfect for each other, and honestly, I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that everything we built together, the home, the memories, the small rituals that felt like glue, holding us together was real and enough. But somewhere along the way, I realized something was off. I remember the first time I noticed the tension. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting or arguments. It was subtle, little moments, me trying to initiate intimacy, and her brushing it off gently, always with a, not tonight, I'm tired, or a, maybe later. I convinced myself it was normal. After all, everyone has phases, right? But it kept happening. Nights turned into weeks, weeks into months. I started overanalyzing everything I did. Was I unattractive? Was I doing something wrong? Was there something about me she didn't like? I obsessed over it quietly, telling myself patience was key. Love was enough, and that maybe it was just stress or life catching up to us. But then came the day that shattered all of that. It was a Thursday evening, the kind that seemed perfectly ordinary. She was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, humming a song I didn't know. I came up behind her, thinking I'd surprise her with a kiss on the neck. And she froze. Not in the cute, playful way she sometimes did, but in a way that made my stomach drop. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice calm, almost clinical. I laughed nervously. Okay, what? She turned to face me, and for a second, I thought she was going to smile and reassure me. But her expression was unreadable. Serious. I'm asexual. I blinked. Twice. 3 times. My brain refused to process the words. Wait, what? I don't experience sexual attraction ever, she said, like she was stating the weather. It's not about you. It's not about anyone. It's just who I am. I've known for a long time, and I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. I laughed. I thought it was a joke at first. Okay, you're joking, right? This isn't like some weird thing you're saying just to freak me out. She shook her head. I'm serious. I've been honest about my feelings before, haven't I? I'm just telling you more directly now. I felt my chest tighten. My hands went clammy. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. I wanted to scream. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to throw something. But mostly, I wanted to disappear. So, what does this mean? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, trying not to let the panic slip through. Like, for us, for our marriage, she sighed, and it wasn't the dramatic sigh you give when you're frustrated. It was tired, resigned. It means I can't give you the kind of intimacy you want. I've never been able to. I can't. And I don't want to hurt you anymore by pretending otherwise. My head was spinning. I wanted to argue, to bargain, to somehow convince her to change, to desire me anything. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew in that instant that this wasn't just a phase. This wasn't stress or mood or exhaustion. This was her truth. And my truth, the truth I'd been suppressing, pretending wasn't important, was that I needed intimacy. That my love language included more than shared laughter and Netflix nights. That my body and heart and mind craved something she simply could not give. I don't know what to say, I muttered. My voice cracked. I didn't know this about you. How long have you known? Since before we got married, she said softly. I didn't think it mattered. I thought I could handle it. I thought we could be happy anyway. I didn't want to lose you. I felt my stomach turn over. Betrayal, confusion, anger, sadness, all these emotions collided in a way that made me want to scream into the empty kitchen. I wanted to run, but where would I go? I wanted to fight, but against what? Against her? Against myself? I tried to steady my thoughts, but every time I took a breath, panic clawed back in. I thought about the past 4 years, about the weekends we spent tangled in each other's arms, about the nights I kissed her and felt a wall between us I couldn't name, about all the nights I felt lonely with someone who slept next to me, all the times I blamed myself, all the times I wondered if I was failing, if I wasn't enough. It wasn't me, not really, it was just her. And that was the worst kind of revelation. I wanted to ask for a divorce immediately. I wanted to walk out of that house, get a lawyer, pack my things, and never look back. But I didn't, because as soon as the thought formed, she said the words that made my blood run cold. I'm not letting you leave. Not like this. We're married. You made vows. You can't just walk away. You won't. I laughed bitterly. You can't. I can't stay. I can't. This isn't a marriage. Maybe not for you, she said. But it's what we have, and I'm not giving up. You can't just decide to leave because you're uncomfortable. That's not how this works. We're bound emotionally, legally, morally. You made choices, so did I, and now we deal with them. I couldn't believe it. My chest ached. My mind screamed. My heart felt like it had been yanked from my ribcage, trapped, cornered. The person I trusted most in the world had just revealed a truth that tore the foundation of everything I thought I had. And then, to add insult to injury, she made it clear I had no freedom to act on my pain. I tried to reason with her. I tried to appeal to logic. We can figure something out. Separation, counseling, you can't legally stop me. She just shook her head. Don't think I won't fight. Don't think I won't make this impossible for you. You'll have to navigate me, the law, the situation. It's not simple, and I'm not giving up. The more she spoke, the more panicked I felt. It was as if the walls of my life had closed in around me. I realized, in a cold, sickening moment, that my needs, my desires, my very humanity were incompatible with her reality. And there was no easy solution, no compromise that would satisfy both of us. I couldn't cheat, I couldn't force her, and staying meant living with a permanent wound in my marriage. I sank onto the kitchen chair, head in my hands, trying not to sob. Part of me wanted to run, to leave, to scream into the night and never return. But part of me knew that even if I walked out physically, the chains she had already placed emotionally, legally, psychologically would follow me. I was trapped in a marriage I couldn't reconcile with. And that was the worst kind of pain. Knowing that leaving wasn't simple, knowing that freedom was barricaded by the very person I had loved with all my heart. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I knew our marriage. I didn't. And now, staring at her calm, steady gaze, I understood something that terrified me more than anything. This wasn't going away. This was real, and I didn't know how to survive it. I asked for space. She refused. I asked for a divorce. She laughed, and it wasn't funny. I wish I could tell you that after the reveal, things got easier. That once the truth was out, we could talk it through, make a plan, or at least part ways with some shred of dignity. But no, life has this cruel habit of making misery linger, like a cloud that refuses to pass. The first few days after her confession were like walking on glass. I tried to sleep in the guest room, thinking the distance would help me breathe, help me think clearly. But every time I closed my eyes, I could hear her in the other room. The soft hum of her routine, the clinking of dishes, the occasional laugh at some invisible joke. It felt like she was everywhere, even when she wasn't. I called a lawyer, the kind of person who makes you feel like freedom is just a signature away. So, you want a divorce? She asked, scribbling notes. I nodded. Legally, it's straightforward. Emotionally, well, that's another battle. That another battle hit me harder than I expected. My chest tightened as I imagined her fighting me, dragging things out, making my life miserable just because she could, and she would. I knew she would. So I tried to talk to her, reasoning like a sane person. We can separate, take some time apart, figure things out. Her response? A slow, knowing smile. You think it's that simple? She said, her voice almost teasing. You think I'll let you walk away that easily? People will talk, friends, family, everyone will judge. And you, trying to run out of this marriage, it won't look good. Not on you. I wanted to shout. I wanted to slam my fist into the wall, but instead I just sat there, paralyzed by the cold precision of her words. She had me trapped emotionally, socially, morally before I even left the room. Every day turned into a delicate negotiation. Awkward smiles at breakfast, forced conversations about work or groceries, the careful avoidance of any mention of what was really tearing our marriage apart. Nights were worse. We slept on opposite sides of the bed, pretending everything was fine, pretending the tension wasn't a physical presence pressing down on us both. Sometimes I'd stare at her profile in the dim light, recalling when I used to trace her jawline with my fingers as we laughed at nothing, and I'd feel this strange mix of longing and resentment. Flashbacks became my constant companions. I remembered the day we bought our first apartment together, how she jumped up and down when the keys were finally in our hands, how I held her face into my hands and promised we'd make it perfect. I remembered our first vacation, the quiet mornings we spent drinking coffee on a balcony overlooking the ocean, the nights we stayed up talking until sunrise. Every memory was a dagger now, a reminder of what I wanted and what I could never have. Friends and family complicated things even more. Some didn't understand. Why can't you just be happy with what you have? They'd ask, clearly uncomfortable. Others sided with me quietly, whispering, you deserve more than that. But even their sympathy came with judgment, and that judgment made me feel like a criminal for simply wanting to live my life. My own parents said little, their disappointment silent but palpable. Her family, protective, cold, and oddly proud of her strength. It was like we were on a battlefield and I was surrounded by invisible forces I couldn't fight. She had this talent for making me doubt myself. One night, I tried to talk about leaving again. I can't stay like this, I said, voice tight. I need to be with someone who, wants the same things I do. She looked at me with those calm, piercing eyes, and I swear I saw amusement in them. You think leaving will fix it? She asked. You think freedom will make you happy? No. You'll carry this with you wherever you go. And besides, what will people think? That you couldn't handle a little compromise? That you gave up on a woman who loved you? I froze. She was right in a way. Not about staying, I knew I couldn't, but about how tangled everything had become. She'd woven a net around me using guilt, society, morality, even my own insecurities. Every potential escape route felt like walking into quicksand. Days bled into weeks. I tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy at work, forcing smiles, participating in conversations, nodding politely when friends asked about how things were going at home. We're fine, I'd lie, but every lie felt like another brick in the wall closing around me. At night, I started to think in darker ways. If leaving wasn't simple, maybe I could create a situation where she had no choice but to let me go. Maybe No, I couldn't think like that. I wasn't that person. Not yet, but the thought lingered. a shadow whispering in the corners of my mind. I realized that she had more than just emotional power. She had legal leverage too. We lived in a state where leaving a marriage isn't always simple, especially when she could paint me as reckless, uncaring, or unfit. Friends warned me, lawyers warned me. Even strangers in online forums had the same message. Get ready for a fight. She won't make it easy. And that's when it hit me I was trapped. Trapped in a marriage that fulfilled her life but suffocated mine. Trapped by the memories, by the law, by the way my own conscience made me feel guilty for wanting something different. She had built a cage around me and I was stuck inside, pacing the walls, wondering if I'd ever see the sky again. There were moments of absurdity though, like the time she served me dinner and asked me to compliment the food, and I couldn't help but laugh through my frustration because the tension was so thick you could slice it with a knife. Or when she casually asked if I'd like to join her in a new hobby, completely ignoring the fact that my world was collapsing. That was her power. She made life seem normal, even when it was anything but. Every plan I made to leave was met with resistance, subtle, psychological, and precise. She reminded me of promises I made, of memories we shared, of the social fallout if I abandoned her. And slowly, insidiously, I started to see her point of view, not in agreement, but in understanding the impossibility of the situation. Leaving wasn't just about walking out the door. It was about navigating a labyrinth with no clear exit, where every step could cost me more than I realized. By the end of that month, I understood something terrifying. She didn't need to yell, scream, or attack. Her weapon wasn't anger. It was calm. It was certainty. It was the unshakable knowledge that she could manipulate the emotional, social, and legal threads of my life in ways I didn't yet fully comprehend. She had built a cage, and every attempt I made to escape only reminded me of the walls. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I had ended up here. How had a marriage I thought was perfect turned into a trap I couldn't see a way out of? The truth was simple and horrifying. Leaving wasn't simple. Nothing about this was simple. And the longer I stayed, the more the cage closed in. I realized then that this wasn't just about me or her. It was about power, control, and survival. And for the first time, I truly understood the depth of the fight ahead. A fight not just for freedom, but for my sanity. I had stepped into a cage I didn't even know existed, and the door had been slammed shut before I could even reach for the handle. Every day feels like a negotiation with a ghost. Every night feels like a prison cell. And the worst part? She knows it. She knows exactly how to make me squirm without lifting a finger. She doesn't need to raise her voice. Her calm, deliberate presence is enough to make me question my every thought, every plan, every instinct to escape. I don't even know where to start describing how my life became this limbo. My mornings are a constant exercise in mental gymnastics. I tiptoe around her moods, smile at the right moments, nod when she lectures about something trivial, and laugh when she cracks a joke that isn't funny. And all the while, in the back of my head, I'm counting the minutes until I can retreat to the safety of the guest room, though that safety is a fragile illusion. I can hear her humming sometimes, a soft, mocking melody, as if she knows I'm silently plotting how to free myself from the cage she built. She's mastered the art of manipulation. Not the obvious kind, but the subtle, insidious kind that makes you question yourself. One night, I suggested I'd start staying at my parents' place for a while just to have space to think. I didn't even say it was about leaving. I tried to frame it as getting perspective. Her response was so casual it nearly broke me. "You can stay there," she said, "but I hope you understand the message it sends to everyone. Friends, family, they'll all see this as you abandoning me. I can't control what they say, but I can make sure they hear both sides. And trust me, I know how to tell a story." I froze. I didn't even think about social perception before. I just wanted air, distance, freedom. But her words made me realize that she could weaponize everything. Friends, family, even strangers who overheard a conversation at the grocery store. She could paint me as the villain in my own life, and she didn't even need to try that hard. She just had to exist. Days merged into nights like a slow, relentless bleed. I started spiraling obsessively, replaying conversations, analyzing her facial expressions, overthinking every interaction. Was she always this cold? Or was it just me seeing it now because I couldn't handle the truth? I felt paranoid even outside the house, convinced that people could somehow see my misery and judge me for wanting something as basic as intimacy. And it wasn't just paranoia. She began using emotional blackmail with surgical precision. "You think leaving will solve anything?" she asked one evening, her voice soft but lethal. "I can make this hard. You know that, right? I can make sure your reputation, your friendships, even your job, all of it could be affected. You'll regret this if you think leaving is simple." My heart pounded. It wasn't even a threat anymore, it was a promise. And the worst part, she could do it. She had the connections, the intelligence, and the patience to make my life hell while still looking like the innocent, loving wife to the world. I tried to rationalize. I told myself I wasn't weak, that I had options. I could document everything, keep evidence, involve lawyers, manipulate the situation legally. But even that became exhausting. Every plan I made, she seemed to anticipate, counter, or neutralize. I started recording conversations quietly, noting inconsistencies in her stories, even attempting to subtly sway friends to my side. But nothing worked. Every move I made felt like a chess game where she always had an extra piece I hadn't seen coming. I hated her at times. I hated the way she could smile while making me feel cornered. I hated the way she could turn my longing for freedom into guilt. I hated the way she existed so effortlessly while I was collapsing under the weight of our situation. But amidst the hate, there were moments, fleeting, cruel, where I remembered why I loved her in the first place. The way she laughed at the silliest jokes, the quiet mornings we shared, the times she held me when I thought I'd break. Those memories made me feel weak and worse, confused. I began questioning myself in ways I never thought possible. Was I being selfish? Was it wrong to expect intimacy? Should I just stay and accept things as they were because love is about compromise? Every argument I had with myself ended in frustration, a bitter mix of guilt and rage. I wanted out, but my moral compass, my own sense of decency, kept me tethered to this nightmare. Then came the confrontation that I'll never forget. It started over something trivial, a comment I made about needing space to think. Her reaction was sharp, controlled, and devastating. "You think you can just leave?" she asked, stepping closer. "Do you understand what you're saying? Do you understand the chaos you'd create?" I just need some distance," I stammered. "Some time to breathe, to think. I'm not asking to end everything immediately, but no, not like this," she interrupted, eyes hard now. "If you walk out that door, I will ruin you. Legally, socially, morally. You have no idea how far I can go. You think leaving will fix your life? You'll regret it. I will make sure of that." I froze. I wanted to argue, to beg, to scream, but she had already won that round. The combination of fear, guilt, and exhaustion made me feel like I was dangling over a cliff with no safety net. That night, I sat in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, trying to collect myself. I had tried everything: planning, documenting, appealing to reason, trying to sway friends, and it hadn't worked. The cage she built wasn't just emotional or social. It was psychological, legal, omnipresent. And I realized something terrifying. Even if I found a way to escape physically, the scars of this manipulation would follow me forever. I started thinking about extreme options, ideas I'd never considered before. Not violent, not illegal, just ways to regain control. I thought about moving secretly, cutting off communication, subtly undermining her influence without confrontation. Every scenario I ran in my head ended in moral conflict. Could I live with myself if I became the person I feared becoming? Could I survive the consequences? And yet, amidst the fear and paranoia, a strange clarity emerged. I didn't have to like her methods. I didn't have to approve of the manipulation, the guilt tripping, the threats. I only had to survive, to reclaim some semblance of autonomy. And that became my obsession, my mission, my secret, burning drive in the dead of night when the house was silent except for her soft, deliberate breathing on the other side of the wall. I realized that my life had become a battlefield, and I was cornered, yes, but I wasn't beaten. Not yet. Every tactic she used, every manipulation, every carefully measured threat only strengthened my resolve. I knew I had to think smarter, move faster, and anticipate her moves before she even made them. Hate, guilt, care, fear, all tangled together like a knot I couldn't untangle. I hated her for trapping me. I hated myself for still caring. I feared the consequences of leaving. And yet, deep down, somewhere beneath the panic and despair, I felt a spark of determination. A spark that whispered, "You will find a way. You will fight. You will survive." By the end of that week, I understood the brutal reality. Leaving wasn't just about walking out the door. It was about outmaneuvering a master manipulator while maintaining my sanity and my moral compass. And I knew that the longer I stayed, the tighter the cage would become. I was trapped, cornered, and scared. But for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of something else. Defiance. And that, I told myself, would be my weapon. I realized the only way out wasn't asking. It was taking control before I lost myself completely. I spent weeks strategizing, watching, listening, and learning every nuance of her manipulation. Every subtle guilt trip, every veiled threat, every casual comment about friends or family, I cataloged them in my mind like a military officer planning a siege. I couldn't just ask to leave. That would be surrender. That would hand her the power again. No, if I wanted freedom, I had to reclaim it on my terms. The first step was acceptance. I accepted the truth. She wasn't going to change, and I couldn't force her to desire me. I had to stop wasting energy on wishful thinking. I accepted that the marriage I thought I had was a lie, or at least a version of reality that had no room for my needs. Accepting that didn't feel liberating at first. It felt like grief, like mourning a life I'd already lost but had no official closure for. Once I faced that, clarity came. Boundaries became my obsession. I started documenting everything, from casual conversations to her thinly veiled attempts to manipulate social circles. Every threatening comment about friends or family got a timestamp note. Every subtle dig at my morality or character got logged. I wasn't just preparing for a legal battle, I was preparing to reclaim my sanity. I also reached out quietly to friends I trusted, the ones who'd seen glimpses of the tension but hadn't judged me. I framed everything carefully, showing facts without emotion, keeping them on my side without creating drama. Some were shocked, some were supportive. I realized that allies were the only way out, not confrontation. This wasn't about anger, it was about strategy. Then came the practical part, creating a path to leave without being trapped by her emotional or legal games. I made arrangements for temporary housing, moved financial accounts subtly, and prepared all my documents. Every phone call, every email, every action was calculated to prevent her from weaponizing them against me. It was exhausting, but necessary. For the first time in months, I felt like I had a thread of control in my hands. Finally, the moment arrived, the confrontation I had been preparing for. I remember sitting across from her at the kitchen table, everything carefully arranged. My papers, my calm demeanor, my resolve. I knew she could see the determination in my eyes because her smirk faltered for a second, just a second, and I took it as a sign. "I'm leaving," I said calmly, deliberately, not asking, stating. It felt good to finally speak the words with ownership. "You think it's that simple?" she said, voice smooth but venomous. "You think you can just walk out? You've built nothing here. You've created chaos. You'll regret this." I didn't flinch. "No, I won't. I've made my peace with it. I'm reclaiming my life." Her smile returned, sharper this time. "Peace? You think you can just erase years of history with a sentence? Friends, family, everyone, they'll see you as cold, as selfish, as a quitter." "I'd rather be a quitter than a prisoner," I said. And for the first time, I felt the weight of fear shift. It didn't disappear, but it lessened, just enough to let me see that I had options. The confrontation escalated. Her veiled threats turned into emotional volleys, attempts to destabilize me. "I can make sure this is messy. I can ruin your reputation, your career. I can make your life unbearable," she said. But I had anticipated this. I calmly reminded her that I had documentation, witnesses, and friends who understood the truth. She tried to regain control, but I was ready. Every manipulation she used before now bounced off me. I won't lie, there was a moment where part of me faltered. Guilt, residual care, memories of laughter, and quiet mornings, they all flooded back at once. I almost apologized for leaving. But then I remembered the nights of cold distance, the manipulation, the cage I'd been trapped in, and I let the guilt pass. This wasn't betrayal, this was survival. I executed my plan. I moved some of my essentials first, slowly, carefully. I made sure she couldn't predict or intercept my actions. I didn't run blindly, I moved deliberately, maintaining my life, my job, my friends, while carving out a safe space for myself. It felt surreal, like learning to walk again after being bound for months. Every step was shaky but freeing. The final moments of the confrontation were tense. She realized the threads of control she thought she had were slipping. "You think this changes anything?" she asked, voice quiet, almost pleading, almost incredulous. "You'll still have me in your life, still in your head." "Maybe," I said, "but at least now I get to decide what part of you I allow in." It was the first honest sentence I'd spoken in months, and it felt like armor. The aftermath wasn't instant liberation, of course. There were legal nuances to navigate, social awkwardness to endure, and moments of emotional flashbacks that would haunt me for months. But the cage, the psychological, emotional, and social trap she had created had been broken. I could breathe again, plan again, and most importantly, live again. As I sat in my temporary apartment that first night alone, I reflected on what I had learned. Love is complex, but it isn't enough if it doesn't include mutual respect and compatibility. Boundaries aren't just about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to yourself. Autonomy, self-respect, and sanity are non-negotiable. And sometimes, the hardest decisions, the ones that feel cruel or painful, are the ones that save you. I also realized something bittersweet. I cared for her. Deeply, in ways I couldn't erase. But caring didn't mean I had to stay trapped. Caring didn't mean sacrificing my entire life. And that, perhaps, was the most difficult lesson of all. I've still got scars from that marriage, emotional ones, psychological ones. I'll carry some of them for the rest of my life. But I also carry something else now. Clarity, strength, and the knowledge that freedom is possible, even in situations that seem impossible. Looking back, I can even see a dark humor in it. The irony of loving someone so deeply that they could trap you completely, only to have your own resolve become the key to escape. Life is messy, cruel, and absurd. But sometimes it gives you exactly what you need, a chance to reclaim yourself. And for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. We have so many more amazing stories coming your way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to reach 100K subscribers by the end of this year, and we'd love for you to be part of this journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.